Rumors are now swirling that Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their children could soon lose their royal titles if and when Prince William becomes king, with nearly a quarter of Britons already calling for Harry and Meghan to be stripped of their HRH status. You know that eerie calm right before a storm hits? That was the atmosphere around Buckingham Palace this morning. But the first rumble didn't come from inside the monarchy. It came from Harry scrambling onto a private jet in California, looking like a man who just remembered he left the oven on back in London. And before you ask, no, Meghan wasn't at his side. No polished PR photos, no Netflix cameras, just Harry on his own, racing back to confront the one thing he's been dodging for years. The reason is simple. The palace has now formally confirmed that they are reviewing who will be allowed to keep their royal titles, and this time it's not just distant background chatter. His name, his children's status, and even those carefully marketed Duke and Duchess business cards are all dangling by the thinnest royal thread. Polls show that 6 out of 10 people either want the Duke and Duchess of Sussex stripped of their titles or wouldn't mind if it happened. The countdown has begun, and the only real question now is whether Harry will fly back to California still a prince or just plain Harry Windsor. For weeks, a story has been circulating that once William ascends the throne, he plans a sweeping clear-out, removing titles from anyone who isn't a working member of the royal family, largely because a smaller, tighter royal team is easier to control. In that kind of across-the-board reset, quietly slipping in no more HRH for Harry, Meghan, and their children suddenly looks less like a personal attack and more like administrative housekeeping. Here's where the drama really kicks up a notch. The palace didn't simply wake up and think, let's check on Meghan and Harry today. Instead, they announced a constitutional review of all honorary titles held by non-working royals. You don't need a decoder ring to see what that implies. Anyone who's been sunning themselves in California while cashing in on their crown connections just got hit with a brutal reality check, complete with royal stamp. The media are politely calling it a routine review. I'd call it the monarchy's version of new phone. Who's this? And look at the timing. This all lands just days after King Charles held a discreet, closed-door meeting with his top advisors, the main agenda being how to streamline the monarchy. I'm no palace insider, but I've lived long enough to know that streamlining usually means somebody is about to be cut loose. Unsurprisingly, every raised eyebrow in Britain shot straight toward Meghan and Harry. Even palace staff didn't bother pretending this move was subtle. A senior insider told The Times that William believes the monarchy can't survive if royal titles are turned into branding tools for personal profit, which is basically royal code for Harry and Meghan. Sit down before the crown hits back harder. The most striking part is that this isn't being framed as emotional payback. It's the institution acting as if it's neutral and procedural while delivering what might be the coldest breakup message in modern royal history. Suddenly, all those Duke and Duchess branded deals look very temporary, like an attempt to chip away at the monarchy's authority while boosting their own bank accounts, something many see as completely unnecessary. And that brings us back to Harry, because the moment that palace statement went live, he reportedly snapped. According to multiple insiders, he went straight into full-blown panic mode. The instant he spotted the phrase "royal titles under review" flash across the BBC ticker. And yes, word is he was in sweatpants, because even a rebellious prince doesn't want to risk losing his HRH while he's still in cargo shorts. According to insiders, he stormed out of a meeting at their Montecito mansion, phone clutched in his hand, eyes wide, like a guy who's just realized he left his wallet on the bar. Only this time, the wallet was his entire royal identity. He rang his father in a panic, demanding that the palace shut the process down immediately, but the reply he got was pure Buckingham frost. His Majesty will speak to you when you arrive. Translation: don't argue from California. If it matters that much, get on a plane. So that's exactly what he did. No Meghan, no Netflix camera crew, not even a token sad glance from the kids. Just Harry, boarding a private jet like he's auditioning for the bleakest reboot of The Crown ever made. Flight trackers picked him up landing alone at Heathrow. No special welcome, no red carpet, just reporters waiting to see how far a fallen prince can drop in 48 hours. The man who once ran from the palace in search of peace is now crawling back to rescue his title. You can almost hear the irony sobbing in the background. William's goal, we're told, is to quietly sideline anyone perceived as freeloading or leveraging their titles for commercial gain. And it's long been reported that the late Queen had made it clear to Meghan that she was not to use the HRH style, a boundary Meghan has, according to critics, simply ignored. Now let's look at the pattern, because this isn't only about one panicked flight and a bruised ego. This comes after years of "we just want privacy," followed by Spare, 6 hours of Netflix, Oprah, Spotify, and any other outlet willing to hand them a microphone and a check. Remember when privacy was the reason for stepping back from royal duty? Somehow that turned into a full-scale content empire built on the very titles they claimed were destroying their lives. Harry called Spare his realest truth. To many, it read like the most overdramatic group chat leak ever published. And Meghan, Ms. I didn't know much about the royals, took a simple British romance and spun it into a multi-part docuseries about her suffering. Add to that the much-publicized, near-catastrophic paparazzi car chase in New York, an entire media spectacle seemingly designed to prove they're still victims of the machine, at a time when the machine itself looks exhausted and even Hollywood is rolling its eyes. So answer this: why are we pretending that two people who walked away from royal life because it was too toxic are still happily signing checks with their titles embossed in gold? You can't run a victim brand and a VIP brand from the same mansion forever. That might sound good in a Netflix pitch, but inside Buckingham Palace, someone has finally said, pick a lane. And judging by the tone this week, the chosen lane is the one without the letters HRH. Harry is reportedly furious that it's emerged Meghan continues to use the HRH styling despite agreeing to drop it when the Sussexes stepped back from royal duties. Now let's swing the spotlight to Meghan, because just when you think she's hit peak eye-roll territory, she drops a line so theatrical you'd swear she was auditioning for the crown instead of criticizing it. That infamous podcast moment still hangs in the air. You know, the one where she calmly says, "I didn't grow up knowing much about the royal family." A bold, confident denial. Because palace staff remember something very different. Meghan poring over royal biographies, practicing curtsies in front of mirrors, grilling insiders about Diana's jewelry. This wasn't some clueless American wandering into Buckingham Palace with a kombucha and a vague fantasy. She'd done her research. Yet she goes on air, slips into that soft, vulnerable tone, and tries to sell the world a version of herself as a naive LA girl who barely knew what a duchess was. People bought it the first time. But when that clip resurfaced this week, they didn't just roll their eyes. They hit replay again and again. Overnight, that soundbite turned into Exhibit A in the growing hypocrisy file, and believe me, that file is thick. Making it worse, that 2021 Ellen DeGeneres segment is circulating again too, Meghan curtsying to a champagne bottle, poking fun at royal protocol like it's a bad improv sketch. Harmless then, maybe. Now it plays like mockery from someone allegedly panicking that her children might lose those same titles. She once insisted titles don't matter. Now she's clutching them like they're the last Birkin on Rodeo Drive. She even tried to explain royal etiquette to Americans by comparing it to medieval times dinner theater. "I curtsied like, 'Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty.'" Meanwhile, Harry finally lands in London and, instead of the warm homecoming he might have imagined mid-flight, he's driven straight to Clarence House. No emotional reunion, no hugs, no Meghan stepping out of a Range Rover in a beige trench, just Harry and a palace that has stopped pretending. Inside, the mood is reportedly icy from the moment he arrives. Less family gathering, more passive-aggressive summit. Harry's opening move is straight out of the panic manual. He demands that the title review be shut down immediately. King Charles, calm and unmoved, is said to respond, "This isn't just about you. This is about the future of the crown." Translation: your tell-all didn't make you king. Harry presses on, reminding his father he's still a prince, still Diana's son in the public eye. Charles pauses, looks him dead in the eye, and replies, "You can't reject the institution and keep trading on its name." That's about as close to a father-son mic drop as it gets. Then things escalate. William walks in, unannounced, unruffled, and not even pretending to smile. You could feel the chill, and it wasn't from the palace aircon. Harry accuses William of being the one leaning on Parliament to strip the titles, and that's when the whole thing reportedly explodes. William fires back, "You made your choice. You left. You wanted freedom. This is what freedom looks like." We've all seen, or most of us have seen, our share of sibling blow UPS, but this one felt like a full-on Bridgerton meets Real Housewives crossover. And when Harry shifted from arguing to practically begging for his children's titles to be spared, the only kindness in that room was the palace, allowing him to leave with whatever dignity he had left. This isn't about money, they keep stressing. Working royals aren't supposed to profit, they don't slap their names on deals, and carrying an HRH is meant to be an honor, not a brand logo. Which is why the fact that Meghan has continued to lean on that HRH styling, even after being told not to, is said to be absolutely infuriating behind Buckingham Palace walls. Meanwhile, back in Montecito, our Duchess of "I'm so over the royals" suddenly discovered the royals might be over her. And when I say the vibe in that mansion flipped, I mean even the scented candles probably wanted to burn out from secondhand embarrassment. Multiple insiders claim Meghan was livid that Harry flew without her. Within minutes of the story hitting People magazine, she was reportedly on the phone to her PR team and lawyers. The brief, "Control the narrative," which is ironic, given she's the lead in a story that keeps slipping out of her control. But here's the twist. This time, Hollywood didn't rush to pick up. Even the usual Friends of the Sussexes crowd didn't want to go near the drama. After all the documentaries, podcasts, leaks, and pity interviews, the industry has finally clocked one thing. The Meghan and Harry brand doesn't sell like it used to. Even her go-to media allies seem to have moved on. After years of being pushed to show support, Sussex fatigue has set in, and no perfectly crafted statement can hide the fact that the palace now has both lawyers and Parliament on its side. For someone who built an entire narrative around being silenced, Meghan has just been handed the one response she never saw coming: silence. The general understanding now is that when William becomes king, they'll be formally stripped of the HRH, and he'll have plenty of public backing if he does. As soon as the news broke, the internet did what it always does. It went feral. The reactions were a full buffet. Hardcore royalists popping virtual champagne on Twitter, Sussex stans writing long threads about how titles don't define them while clearly tweeting through tears, and the rest of us sitting back with popcorn. The British tabloids had a field day. One Daily Mail headline screamed "Rebel Prince returns for his reckoning," while the Telegraph dubbed it "The Crown's quiet coup." Somewhere in California, Meghan was probably wondering why the headlines are always their most creative when they're about her. Online, the split was almost comical. In the UK, "Strip the Titles" was trending by lunchtime, with people calling it long overdue and the natural consequence of the couple's Hollywood hustle. In some pockets of the US, "Leave Harry Alone" tried to get traction, but the energy just wasn't there. What really stands out is that even some former supporters are cooling off. People who once defended the Oprah interview are now side-eyeing the podcast comments, and Netflix viewers are saying the documentary felt a little too polished and that the sympathy tank is running on fumes now. It's as if the world has finally caught on to a simple truth. You can't tear into the monarchy on prime time, turn the fallout into a business model, and expect the crown never to hit back. Even the algorithms seem over it. Just like that, the Meghan and Harry pity era is starting to time out. And right when it felt like the Sussex chaos couldn't escalate any further, Buckingham Palace delivered the quiet knockout blow, a low-key late-night statement. No dramatic fanfare, no staged briefing, just a razor-sharp line from an institution that lives on understatement and authority. The review into royal titles is progressing with the cooperation of both the Crown and Parliament. No individual is exempt from the process. That single sentence flipped the entire board. For the first time, the palace wasn't merely hinting, it was openly signaling that titles are up for the axe. By morning, everyone was fair game, and every major UK paper was pulsing with the same message: royal titles in peril. Harry returns too late. You could almost hear Britain waking up in a mix of schadenfreude and shock. Across the Atlantic in Montecito, Meghan was said to have broken down in tears with friends, insisting, "They can't do that to my children." But the hard reality is, they can. As one palace aide allegedly put it, "The monarchy doesn't take, it corrects." Chilling, poetic, and brutal. Because this wasn't just Buckingham Palace quietly deleting a style from a webpage, it was the Crown declaring, in clear terms, that you don't get to cash in on them and then claim you're the ones being exploited. And if Harry and Meghan still hadn't absorbed that message, the palace just baked it into constitutional reality. People used to say, no royal will ever actually be stripped of a title. Then came the last few weeks. Will this hit Harry and Meghan directly once Prince William is king? That remains to be seen, but plenty of people are openly hoping it does. So here we are, Harry back in London, Meghan reportedly pacing barefoot around Montecito, and the titles they once clutched like lifeboats slowly drifting out of reach. And honestly, who could be surprised? Oh right, anyone with eyes and a Wi-Fi connection saw this coming. They wanted freedom, they wanted their truth, they wanted Netflix deals at breakfast and royal cachet by dinner. But this latest palace move is that quiet kind of justice that doesn't need a documentary or a podcast monologue to land. It's the monarchy saying, go ahead, walk away if you choose, but you don't get to carry the crown out the door. So the real question isn't whether Harry leaves London still calling himself a prince, it's whether he ever truly grasped what being royal actually meant. Stick around for part 2 of this saga, because it feels like this royal reckoning is only just beginning, and if you don't want to miss what comes next, make sure you're subscribed and have those notifications on.